Hello, folks, and welcome back to Chris Wyatt Reports. Well, it's September, and the independent line is taking a different tack in its personal attacks, its ad hominem attacks on minority South Africans. Its most recent attacks have not been placed as news, but rather as opinion editorial, which gives them a bit more leeway in their personal attacks and the way they present them. Today, on the 2nd of September, another op-ed appears, this one once again about Roman Cabanac and his appointment to the Department of Agriculture in South Africa as Chief of Staff for John Steenhuisen. Now, this one is by Tracy Lomax Nixon, and let's be fair up front. It's far more balanced, it's a lot less snarky, and it raises fair questions. However, let's delve into it.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since Simon's down in Boulders, folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa.
She begins by saying, in short, we have a minister and a chief of staff who are not equipped to manage this vital ministry. Instead of drawing upon the skills of someone like Willem de Villiers, who has enormous experience in this area, the minister appointed a podbro. Well, first off, where was this angst concern when a plethora of idiots from the ANC served as Minister of Agriculture over the past 25 years? Did she write op-eds about their incompetence and lack of skills in agriculture? Somehow I doubt that. Only when a minority South African gets into the office is it time to start questioning whether they're qualified. Now, not equipped is her opinion, one she is welcome to express. I, too, have questioned the appointment of John Steenhuisen as agriculture minister. It seems quite odd to me. There are plenty of qualified farmers and agronomists in the DA caucus in Parliament who could do a credible job, right? No? Also, why the cheap shots and efforts to be diminutive towards Cabanac? Pod bro? Seriously? She may not like his worldview, but he's done quite a bit as a genuine journalist, going places almost no one in South Africa is willing to go, speaking to folks others refuse to speak to. He was among the first, if not the first, to get an interview with Gate McKenzie, as Gate McKenzie and the Patriotic Alliance rose and became more popular and now become a force in the electoral sphere. He went there first. Went to Orania when lots of people were talking about it, unwilling to go there and look at what's actually happening. Recently went to Russia, interviewed the Russian ambassador in South Africa, something no other media outlet was willing to do. I'm not saying I support or don't support what he does in journalism. What I'm saying is that he's not simply a pod bro. That's very dishonest and an effort to smear him. So there's no need for her to resort to name calling. She can make her point without that. Well, Cabanac is not a farming expert by any stretch, but she overstates the role of the chief of staff in formulating strategy. Having served as the chief of staff of a $3 billion, that's 60 billion Rand acquisition program with a global presence, I can attest to the role being very different than what she claims it is for chief of staff. And I've had worked for dozens of chiefs of staff before I ever was a chief of staff all around the world. Now, Cabanac does not need to be an expert in agriculture, nor does Steenhuisen for that matter. Though given the challenges in the sector, Ramaphosa would have been far smarter to appoint someone with vast experience in agriculture. She continues saying that more alarming is that Cabanac is divisive and he will be the chief of staff in a ministry which will require him to work with DTI, water, environmental affairs, education training, as well as public works. This, of course, is perhaps the most accurate point that she raises in her op-ed. Roman is in fact divisive and at times he's quite caustic. However, that's a public persona. For those who've interacted with him in person, Roman Cabanac comes across very differently. He's quite personable, affable, and easy to interact with. Now, whether that translates into success as a chief of staff remains to be seen. He's not served in that role previously, to our knowledge. She adds, does he have the skills to do this? Or will he, like his boss, shoot his mouth off with insults and not cooperate with people he needs to get things done? Well, that's a bit snarky, especially towards John Steenhuisen. Did John take away her after-dinner snack? For Roman, sure, he's quite cheeky and may very well shoot his mouth off, as this tweet a few days ago demonstrates. The tweet would be weird even for someone not known for stirring the pot. But for Roman to do this, it's clearly intended to poke his detractors in the eye. It's not very mature nor helpful in the current climate, and kind of confirms her point about whether he'll just shoot his mouth off or not. Look at this early in his tenure as chief of staff. She says the most important portfolio he will need to liaison with is the land reform and rural development. This topic is brought up regularly by people who claim that land reform will affect food security. Well, that's a fair point, but land reform is out of the Department of Agriculture's hands. Does she think the ANC will, for even a microsecond, listen to a DA minister on this topic, regardless of who the chief of staff is? I think she's overly optimistic. The land reform is not going to listen to agriculture for a second under this government national unity. Now, Lomax-Nicklin offers a laundry list of topics she claims need ministry attention, including climate change, water scarcity, soil degradation, land reform and tenure, market access and infrastructure, commodity prices, skills and knowledge gaps, scarcity of veterinarians, and vaccine shortages. These are all legitimate things that the ministry should be concerned about. But once again, land reform is out of the ministry's portfolio, and it seems highly unlikely that the ministry responsible for it will even give them an office call, let alone an appointment, or even a Zoom call to address this issue. Commodity prices are market-driven, like the recent spike in potato prices after the black frost in Limpopo province killed much of the potato crop, rising the prices. Supply and demand, folks, supply and demand. It's not something that the ministry should be involved in. Let the market dictate. Now, skills and knowledge gaps is a responsibility of the education sector with only limited agriculture involvement. Well, perhaps, as she suggests, we should be questioning the skills of John Steenhuisen and Roman Cabanac and their competence. But also, we have to question her understanding of the role of the Ministry of Agriculture. She sounds like a big government, leftist government control over the market, not a free market advocate. She says, does Cabanac understand that only 13% of our land is arable and far less of that land produces the majority of our food? Land reform will not have an effect on food security, but when the people you listen to are the AfriForum mold, will you know that? Now, again, this is a fair question. Perhaps IOL should ask him rather than have op-ed implying he does not. Few South Africans have any grasp of the land situation or the paucity of arable and even less well-watered arable land. Where did AfriForum come into the conversation? My goodness. Also, this is a false statement. Land reform will not have any effect on food security. In fact, it will. Breaking down productive industrial farming for subsistence farming will collapse food security in South Africa. And if she doesn't believe that, then she knows nothing about agriculture. The ANC has stated over and over again its goal to put 1 million Black South Africans on subsistence farming across the country by taking land without compensation from industrial scale farms. Someone poorly informed about farming and the market sector would think that that's a good idea. But she clearly states that there'll be no impact on food security. That's factually incorrect, and it's a leftist lie. And back to her AfriForum comment. When the people you listen to are of the AfriForum mold. Well, I've got a question for her. Does that mean the well-informed, educated, and dedicated folks at AfriForum who are subject matter experts on agriculture, water, sanitation, sewage, public safety? I think not. And what a shame. Tracy Lomax-Nicklin has penned a largely appropriate op-ed that addresses genuine questions about the role of Roman Cabanac and even that of John Steenhuisen at the Department of Agriculture. Unfortunately, she exposes her bigotry and the real reason for the op-ed when she casually tosses in the ad hominem attacks and refuses to offer any semblance of balance in this more honest, yet still an IOL attack piece opinion editorial. They describe Tracy Lomax-Nicklin as an attorney and part-time small-scale farmer with a passion for sustainable farming, land redistribution, and food security. Passion for land redistribution. So she's all into land theft. Okay. Now, small-scale farmer? Does she grow tomatoes in her backyard? Ooh, that was out of bounds, no?
Well, that was offside, wasn't it? He'll be crying himself to sleep tonight on his huge pillow.
Sounds like an ad hominem personal attack, eh? Unfair and unnecessary, except that it was necessary to illustrate the point about her op-ed and unnecessary attacks. The Podbro attack, the smear against AfriForum, and the willful ignorance to be honest about issues here. But hey, this is a dramatically better op-ed and one that asks genuine questions instead of the entirely attack-based, race-based previous ones we've seen coming from the independent line. So nice improvement, IOL, but you still got a ways to go before you start being objective and honest about what's actually going on. But thank you, Tracy Lomax-Nicklin, for improving the climate and asking legitimate questions, at least. Something we rarely see from that publication. Hey, folks, thanks for joining us. Be sure to hit the like button and give us a comment if you'd like. Appreciate a subscription as well. Cheers.